Welcome back, everyone. 5:29 this morning. Well, brewing beer at home has become very popular in recent years, and there are dozens of home brew clubs all over Ohio.
Yeah, and Joe Galley is here in the studio with a more in-depth look at this pastime that can actually save beer drinkers money. Joe, I'm intrigued.
Well, that's right. For people that have a taste for more expensive craft beers, brewing your own flavors at home can save some cash and be really fun. It doesn't take a whole lot to get started. All you need is a 5-gallon pot, and that's going to set you back to about $50 to $100. But after that, you just have to get ingredients like grains. Specifically, malted barley, wheat, and rye are the ones that are more commonly used to go ahead and make beer. And these make the sugars, which turn into the most important thing about beer, the alcohol. They're all different types of flavors there, and you can also get little starter kits like this one here for pumpkin spice porter. That one just looks absolutely delicious for this season. But what makes beer is hops. So hops is the bittering agent that is added into beer, and there are hundreds of different varieties of hops, and they could change your beer depending on, you can make the lager style beer with light hops, or you can make a much more intense style beer like an Indian Pale Ales. Now, I talked to Kip Nickerson, the manager at Tiekermeyer's in Toledo, which sells all different types of homebrew necessities. This is what he says is the next step once you've cooked your ingredients.
You're basically letting it sit in your bucket or your carboy for the first week, and after a week you transfer it into another bucket, and you can either bottle it from there, and then it takes 2 weeks in the bottle, or you can put it into a secondary, which is basically a clearing stage, lets everything kind of clear out, and then you bottle it.
So this is how homebrew becomes less expensive than actually going out and buying craft brews. Once you've made this $85 to $100, maybe $150 investment on the initial hardware of stuff that you have, then you're just going ahead and buying the ingredients afterwards. So it turns out if you're going out and you're spending, $15 on certain specialty 6-packs and stuff like that, you can end up saving money by going ahead and finding recipes that are similar to that and then just making it at home. And then you also just have that great time of, I did it in college a lot, and I hung out with my buddies and we made tons of beer.
Really?
Junior and senior year, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
Drink responsibly, folks.
That's what I told my mom. We were making bread. I assumed it was just bread. But no, seriously though, it's a really fun time to do it, and you can get with your friends and you can go ahead and you can experiment, and you can find fun recipes online, so you don't have to just, you start with the starter kits, just to get used to stuff like that, but then you really want to go ahead and branch into stuff and find what you like and then make something new, and then it could start into a whole new thing for you to do.
Sounds great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will you brew some for us?
Oh yeah, I could definitely do that.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. I like asking people on the spot on TV to do things. They always say yes when you ask them on TV.
They have to, really.
But I make it happen.
Yes, Joe
nice.
Galley, everybody. All right, way to celebrate National Drink Beer Day. Thank you very much. You have another report coming up the next hour, right?
That's right, and this is about craft beers. If you're not into making it, but you still want to try it, I got a story coming up at 6 that you'll want to hear.
All right, perfect. 5:32 on your Wednesday morning. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 6:18 on your Wednesday morning, and we can't forget that today is National Drink Beer Day. We're talking about that all morning.
Yeah, drink beer responsibly day.
Yeah, put that word in there as
right.
well. And earlier, Joe talked about some things you can do to brew your own beer at home. That was really interesting. That was really interesting,
and Joe Galley is live now in studio once again for to talk about a special kind of bucket list to go along with National Drink Beer Day.
That's right, because, everybody needs to have a bucket list of things you want to do before you die, but you should also have a beer bucket list, because, Ben Franklin once said, beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy, so why not have a list of the different types of beer you want to try? Mark Schneider is the owner of the Beer and Wine Cave in Toledo. It's a specialty craft and beer and wine store. He's pouring a creme brulee stout from Imperial Brewing Company out of New York. It's a creamy dessert beer. It's like drinking liquid creme brulee. Look at the head on that. That's just it's so sweet and delectable. This right here is the Gonzo Imperial Porter. It's a tribute beer to Hunter S. Thompson, who you might remember. He wrote the novel Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This bottle will set you back $100. And that's kind of that's a high price for one bottle of beer. This is the Yucca Polensky's Burton 10 from Tuscany, Italy. It recently came to the U.S., and it's a heavy malt beer with low hops. It's sweet and has a creamy texture. There are all different price ranges for craft beers, from just a couple of bucks to some all the way in the hundreds. Schneider says that enjoying craft beers, you have to go and experiment to find the ones that you really like.
There's so many great beers, and I think you should have a hit list or a bucket list, so to speak, of the beers that you want to try, and start notching off your beers and let us help you work your way through that list.
Now, some people might be intimidated by the sticker price on some of these beers. So the real trick is, if you really want to get into craft beers and you really want to go ahead and start experimenting with that and find the ones that you really like, it's important to find places that do tastings so that you can go there and spend 10, 15, some of them are more pricey depending on the type of bottles that they're opening right there. I mean, it's the same as like wine tasting and stuff like that. So if you want to go ahead and get into craft beers and try to expand your beer palate, that's probably the best way to go ahead and do that. And they do that at the Beer and Wine Cave on like Wednesdays and Thursdays. So it's too late for me to go. So
yeah, it's late at night. We have to go to bed.
Joe,
early.
you sound like a beer expert this morning.
you're doing well.
I mean, your
Look at
facts
you.
are just coming right at us.
Well researched.
When you're passionate about a subject.
Yeah, you know, I typically, I'm okay with the $5.99 bottle of wine, but I do like craft beer. There's a beer that I have struggled to find. It's from Vermont. It's called Otter Creek. Otter Creek's Copper Ale. No, it's not maple syrup.
beer?
It's Otter Creek's Copper Ale. It's out of Middlebury, Vermont. And ever since I moved away from Vermont, I had not been able to find it. I found it at the Andersons just a couple weeks ago, and it made my day. Way more than it should have, but it's so good. And so, you know, spending an extra dollar, and it's only an extra dollar or two really per 6-pack on some of those craft beers from the region. So.
Right, and it's always great to find beers that you're really passionate about and beers that are going ahead and remind you. I found banana bread beer recently that I had back in Los Angeles. It was on tap at this specialty place, and they happened to bottle it, and I walked into a place, and it caught the corner of my eye, and I was just super excited.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, there's that connection with it. Yeah. Because I had a great time when I first tried that beer, so I'm like,
taste memory.
Right.
Yeah, you have it all the time.
And you also have pumpkin beer, too.
Yes.
Which you left in the fridge.
Which I left in the fridge.
Which we were planning on smelling.
My excuse, I was playing with kittens.
All right.
They were back there, and they were so adorable. That's like the world's biggest distraction, right?
It is. Yeah. It is. That makes sense. That makes sense. It's like the human ball of yarn. What the ball of yarn is to cats, cats are to us. But and he's not crazy. They're really, in case you're just tuning in, there really are a couple kittens out there from an earlier segment. But about the World Beer Day, we joke around, all that stuff. All of us are of age, legally able to drink responsibly, don't drink and drive. All those disclaimers.
Exactly.
We really mean it. We joke around, but we also want to send those positive messages
on a serious
out as well.
note.